PropStream for almost 8 years now. I started as tech support and I just really dove into it. I just took it upon myself in my personal time to learn about real estate strategies, took my real estate courses, obviously work with investors like yourself who do multiple different strategies nationwide. So I guess you would say I have my foot in both doors. As to PropStream, they've been collecting data since 2006. So I've been blessed to be with a company that's just been not only credible, but they've just kind of kept quiet. You guys have probably just recently heard about PropStream, but they've actually been around for a long time. We just don't put any money in marketing. We really just put the money back into the platform. So the first things first, if you're wondering, what is PropStream? What can it do for my real estate business? I broke it down in this outline for you. I like to say that PropStream is a two-part process or as a two-part system. The first part of PropStream is that it's a lead generation system. And we've broken that system or that portion of our system into three phases, I like to say. And the first phase is for, seasoned investors that already have their marketing machine in place, they're gathering contact information in place. This is what I call the phase one, which is you're just here to build a list. You search, you filter through our 18 categories, or you just build your own motivated sellers and buyers list. And then you save your list and then export that data. Now you can take that CSV file of our data of motivated sellers and buyers that you built anywhere else that you like. Phase two is gathering contact information. Within PropStream, we have an internal skip tracing provider, multiple providers that work with us. So right now we're running a deal where it's just 12 cents for skip tracing. So you can take your motivated sellers or buyers list and get it skip traced. And within about 15 minutes or less, you're going to get your results. And then you can export it, right? Because now you have your buyers list or your sellers list with their cell phone, landline, and or email. And then now you can upload it to your dialer, upload it to your existing marketing platforms, whatever it may be. And then we have phase three. This is kind of geared for someone who's just new to the industry. They don't have any marketing in place. They don't have team members or any of that. This is direct marketing to that list. So you build your list, get your contact information, and then you create a marketing campaign. And that marketing campaign for that list gets a website. It's a one-page landing page. The idea is that it's a call to action to that specific situation. So our marketing campaign, you can create as many different marketing lists or marketing campaigns as you like, because we know you're going to have multiple different marketing lists. You're going to have a cash buyers list, an auctions list, a pre-foreclosure list, a tax lien list, a bankruptcy, a divorce, tired landlords. We know you're going to have different filters, different marketing lists that you're going to save. So the marketing section is geared for that, to where I can create a marketing campaign for my auctions list. And that website will say something like, hey, I can buy your house in 30 days in cash, all right, or less. And then from there, I can send the postcard, ringless voicemail, or email, or all three of them. It's really your choice. And then my next campaign, which is my cash buyers list, that website, the landing page for that campaign will say, hey, how would you like to make 100K, right? Fill out the application down below. And then I can either just send them a ringless voicemail, that choice there.
Now, the skip tracing, is that filtered through the National Do Not Call Registry?
No, it is not. And we try to do that, but even doing that, unfortunately, it's not going to be really an easy task, because the challenge really is it's a numbers game. You can run that through the list today, and there's someone that just put their phone number on that list an hour later. So you do get a pop-up that says that we do not do it. So unfortunately, that's not a service that we provide anymore. We used to do it in the past, but we were still finding numbers slipping through. So we're now just kind of leaving it to the users.
Now, does the ringless voicemail, if you utilize that feature, does that still require it be filtered through the Do Not Call Registry? Do you know? Or does that bypass it? The need for that?
No, it does not bypass it. It's a literal system. So yeah, you want to make sure you're first filtering the do not call numbers before using our ringless voicemail. It also applies to any investors that are in certain states like Florida, where you shouldn't be doing that stuff. So we do hope that you know your state policies and the obviously procedures when it comes to the do not call list. If you're concerned about the do not call list, that's why we have the postcards and emails. So you can avoid doing the phone thing if you don't want to do that, okay? Now, when it comes to the lead generation, again, this is something you can do with PropStream or outside of PropStream, right? Whether you're using our platform, a different platform, or even doing it physically, going to the county to build your list, knocking on a door, which is your way of getting a hold of them, and then marketing, talking to them while you're at the door, right? Inevitably, it's going to lead to you needing to analyze that property. And that's what we call stage 2, where you can search the address or click on the parcel. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our multiple sources, right? MLS data, the vacant data, the lien data, the mortgage data, the HOA data. If it's a senior owner, the tax exemption information, the tax info, and put it on one page called our property details page. And that's what I call finding opportunities. Sometimes opportunities are like, oh, hey, it's in a pre-foreclosure. That's an obvious one. Sometimes other opportunities could be that, the owner's in a different state, or it's been owned for someone for 30 years, or the person has 3 mortgages or 4 mortgages. So that's finding opportunities, is just getting all that data together. And then you'll be able to run comps in specific properties using public records or MLS records. And then from there, you can print out our reports and then take it outside of our system. Now, there are additional features like being able to get team members. And then we have this feature called List Automator. List Automator does 2 very powerful things. The first thing it does is it allows you to import data into PropStream and get our information on top of that list. So let's say you have a best friend that's a divorce attorney, and he gives you a list of divorce addresses that no one else has yet, right? But that's all it can give you, is just the addresses. He doesn't have mortgage data. He doesn't have anything else. You can take that list, import it into PropStream, and then we'll tell you what we have. So we'll tell you how many of those divorce addresses are on market or failed or are vacant or have high or low equity. So that's one feature of List Automator. But the key component of List Automator is in the name itself, to take a list and automate it. Essentially, what you can do with PropStream is build a list with certain filters and then save that list and then automate it, meaning that from that day forward, we're going to monitor that list for you. So anytime we're doing an update in that market that you searched and we find a property that meets your filter during that update, we're just going to put it in your marketing list for you automatically, right? So there's no need to ever search that list again. The other cool thing about List Automator is it also hones in on the properties that you've saved already. So if I've saved 1,000 properties and I ask for vacant off market with equity, and next week 30 of them no longer are on market or off market because they're now on market, List Automator will automatically identify that for me. It'll say, hey, you have 30 properties that don't meet this criteria anymore, and then it'll delete that for you, or you can move it to a different marketing list, or you can just ignore it. So the concept of List Automator is to allow you to import and get our data, but then automate. So that way we can automatically add, but most importantly, remove what's no longer meeting your criteria. And that removal part is what's saving you money, right? You're taking 30 properties out because they're on market. That's 30 postcards, 30 voicemails, 30 emails you're no longer sending. And then we have our mobile app, which I forgot to put on here. So before I transition into the showing you the product, I see we have some questions in the chat. Do we want to go through this really quick, Ryan?
Yep. What are the costs associated with phase 3 of that last slide? So like the postcards.
Yeah, no problem. So on PropStream.com, you can go to our pricing tab right over here, and you'll see the add-ons like List Automator, team members, as well as the marketing. So postcards are as low as 40 cents. Again, they're tiered. So you can get them as high as like 48 cents if you just send one, but if you do multiples, you can get it as low as 40 cents. And we have different tiers along the way. Skip tracing right now is just a deal that we're going. So it's just a deal where it's just 12 cents right now. It used to be tiered, but right now, because of this cyber month deal that we're having, it's 12 cents whether you do one address or 1,000. You're pretty much getting our wholesale price when it comes to that. Ringless voicemails are 10 cents per successful delivery. Again, successful delivery. So if you call 100 phone numbers, that should be $10. But if only 90 voicemails are delivered, then we only charge you $9. And then email as well, 2 cents for successful delivery. So 100 emails, if all 100 get delivered, that's your $2 there. If not, let's say 90, then $1.80 is what we charge you. So this is our pricing right here for you.
Now,
hey, real quick on that, going off of that, as far as like Ringless voicemail and sending emails and stuff. So Ringless voicemail, do you guys create additional phone numbers for that? Like where are they redirected to once the Ringless voicemail goes to them?
Good question.
And then also too for Ringless voicemail and for skip tracing and all that, do you guys have some sort of CRM or database that kind of tracks all this, or do we have to pair up with like Podio or someone like that?
Yeah, so right now, to be frank with you, we don't have a CRM. We're researching it, maybe even, I can't really disclose, but I'll just say we're researching it. So right now, people are integrating their systems with like Podio and other platforms as a CRM. So yeah, simultaneous usage essentially, because we don't have that connection, that automation that you're referring to. As for the ringless voicemail question, James, we don't provide you a phone number, and it's not robocalling. So in terms of redirection, step one of the ringless voicemail setup is what's the caller ID you want to put. So it could be a fake number that you put on there. It could be your personal number on there. It could be your Google Voice number that you like to put on there. And again, whatever number you have applied on step one is what they're going to get on the missed call notification. As for step two, that's the voicemail. And again, it's a voicemail that you upload. So, hey, this is Burton, local investor. I'm looking to buy your home. Visit my website or give me a call or call back the number you see on your caller ID. So that's how that whole system works there.
And as far as the automated list feature that you were just going over, so
yeah.
If new properties are added to that list, are they immediately sent out a postcard? Or
no, they're not. So we haven't bridged that gap yet, only because our marketing system is still external. It's not an internal, like we're not the publication or the publisher of the postcards. We don't actually, that's not our RVM and that's not our email system. So we're still working on the bridging, taking our data over to their systems and just having them just do that or automatic order system. The challenge is the financial part. When there's money involved and you have multiple companies, just getting that squared away is really what the challenge is. But so first stage is, can we do it with the data? Second stage is, can the money be squared away right away? Because these companies obviously want to get paid for the services. Last thing we want to do is have our publisher send 10,000 postcards and then there's no way to or confirm that the payment went through. So that's really the challenge there. But no, so what people have done, James, in that scenario is when they're getting these new records, they'll isolate them and put them into a new marketing list. Or one of the options is to automatically put it in a list of your choice. And once you, let's say, have enough in that list, 12, 50, whatever the amount is, then you can create a whole new marketing campaign for that new list.
Awesome.
Any other questions? I don't think we're there. Okay, so let's go ahead and log in. So again, that's the outline. If you guys want to take a screenshot of it, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to focus on just the property, analyzing the property details, so you guys can see what we do with, essentially what our bread and butter is. So when you first log in with PropStream, we're going to essentially show you just like what's new. It's all the stuff I just went over, like our new features and stuff that we're working on the back end. But ultimately what we're going to do is we're going to capture your IP address and zoom in on your market. So I'm here in Southern California in South Orange County, but we're a nationwide data provider, right? So what we do particularly is in the past, we noticed back in like 2006 when I was talking to my mentor, the owner of the business, why is it that you created PropStream? And the thing that they saw back then was that this information was all localized, right? Like there was this data out there, but it was certain websites, well, only a few people had it because like back in 2006, there's still companies that were like on dial-up, right? Some people didn't even have internet. So this is all localized information. So the company owner sought to kind of put it into a hub. And that's really what we did. So the start of it is we got to get tax parcel data, right? We got to see all the tax parcels out there that are registered. And then from there, we can start building on that tax parcel, right? So if we can send that tax parcel to our sources and say, okay, do you have any MLS data on this? Any pre-foreclosure, any auction, which is what you see here at the very top. So this is just kind of a small sample of the data that we collect. MLS, pre-foreclosure, auctions, bank-owned, cash buyers, involuntary lien, vacant data from the Postal Service, and then high equity, which is calculations on mortgage to calculate high equity. But what we really do is that we take that parcel, so you can look for a parcel in two fashions, one by clicking on it, the other by zooming on it. Like right now I'm going into Vegas and then just randomly finding a parcel and clicking on it. So what we do is we take that parcel that I just clicked on and we run it across our first 8 categories here, and we have more in our filter. So under our quick list choices, After high equity, we have free and clear, bankruptcy, divorces, tax delinquencies, flippers, which is only found in PropStream, but this is our county and MLS status side by side. So what flippers, the logic there is we want to see a property that was bought and is now back on market within 24 months or less, because that's usually the balloon payment of a hard money lender, right? So we're just trying to see, hey, did someone buy a property in Vegas and is it now back on market within 2 years or less? Failed listings will be any withdrawals, owner or the agent changed their mind, as well as expired listings. Senior owners is this list that we've been able to create because we collect tax exemption information, mortgage data, and years of ownership. So if you kind of piece it together, I'm sure you guys can build your own senior owners. We're just kind of doing that on the back end. Vacant land is a system. It's a list that we've created our own because the counties across the nation are very sloppy. I'll give you a prime example. If I go into Las Vegas and click on property characteristics, which this is actually looking for what the county has recorded, and I choose vacant land, you'll notice a lot of these properties do say vacant land because that's what the county has it recorded, but there's property characteristics on it. Like, is that really a vacant land? No, it was, and it's now developed on, right? So what our team had to do is go in there and remove all of those property characteristics. So instead of going into classification and relying on the county, you can let us take care of that. When you choose vacant land down here, all of the results over here are vacant land. You'll notice that there's no property characteristics on any of the results that you'll see on the right-hand side. So when you click on Dover Straight Street, you'll see the bird's eye view is just a vacant plot of land, and there's no beds or bathrooms or square footages on the building or anything like that. So again, this is just many years of just collecting data. We know the pain and struggles that investors have been facing for years. These are just the things that we've created on behalf of you guys. Tired landlord, something that you guys are very familiar with. This is just a non-owner occupied property with 15 years of ownership. We started with 15 years because a traditional mortgage is 30 years. 15 years would mean that they're about 50% on equity or more at that point, right? So tired landlords is just kind of a shortcut list. You can build your own tired landlord list, right? You don't have to use ours. You can say, I want it non-owner occupied with 20 years of ownership if you'd like. But that list is just a shortcut that we've created. And then zombie properties. These are pre-foreclosures and vacant listings side by side. So what we've done is instead of going into the market of Vegas and going through 1,100 pre-foreclosures and 12,000 vacant records, we've just isolated them, the ones that are in both categories right away. And the reason why we did that is a lot of investors know what to do when someone's in pre-foreclosures. These homeowners don't know what to do. As a matter of fact, these are probably the homeowners that didn't know what their options were, so they're now gone, right? They've disappeared, they moved in with a relative, out of country in most cases. So we're just isolating them for you right off the bat. So this has been known in the industry for a very long time. It's been called zombie properties for a very long time. We figured we'd just kind of give you guys that hidden tip right then and there. So these are the 18 categories that we collect. And as you saw, when I clicked on that random property, I mean, that's really what we're doing. We're taking that one property and just running it across all of those categories. So now you have this brief description of the property, but when you go into the details, this is what we call the property details page, you're able to see all that information that we've collected, okay? So the cool thing about that is, again, you can search a property nationwide, right? Whether it's in Vegas or you zoom out and we go to, let's say, Dallas, Texas, or Austin, Texas, we can do the same thing. Again, we collect parcel data. You click on that parcel. Let's look for a house here. There you go. Click on one, and we put it across all of the data that we have. So what is it that we're seeing, right? So this is what we're known for. This is our core, piecing the data together. So when you go into the property details, the first thing you're going to see is our dashboard. We're going to show you photos of the property. Now, sometimes you'll have MLS photos. If not, you're just going to get the satellite view. Below that, you're going to get the property characteristics. Some areas won't give it to us. Like this is Texas and non-disclosure where we don't see bedrooms in most parts of the area. But if we were to go to a different state, let's say we go to, let's just zoom out and do it again. So I'm just jumping around. I know you guys are like, why does he keep jumping around? I just want to show you guys like, where we're at in terms of the data nationwide. But you can go from one county to another county, one state to another state, and just know that no two properties have the same information. Like in Texas, I didn't see the bedrooms, but here I get the bedrooms in Atlanta, right? And notice how in that previous property, we didn't have MLS photos. Well, this property I just randomly clicked on was on the MLS back in 2019 and it sold. And here were the photos that we collected at that time, right? So we take that parcel you click on or search by address and run it across. So that way, when you get to this page, you can see the photos, characteristics, a summary of our data, property type, is it on or off market? Is it in pre-foreclosure? Does it have negative equity? Is it in an HOA? Who owns it? Individual, corporate, trust, or both? Owner occupied or non-owner occupied? Are they answering their mail? How many years of ownership? How do they buy it? What county it's in? Our estimated value, which you should never go by. Reason I say that is because estimated values, whether it's with PropStream or the next provider, here's the thing that these algorithms do. Again, I've known this data for quite some time, and I know how these companies are doing it. First off, this information can be bought. You can get it from like a bank. You can get it from these huge companies. But what they fail at doing is this. They can't see photos, right? These algorithms take just what it sold for. And the assumption is, okay, well, it sold for 169. Every property in this area must have sold for 169. But see how you can see the estimated value is not representing the sell amount? It's because these calculations don't look at pictures. So my point is, don't go running around assuming that the estimated value is the after repair value. Same with the comps down below down here. What we're just showing you is that, hey, we found 27 properties that sold, right? It could be a duplex, it could be an apartment, it could be a mobile home, it could be a single family property, it could be 1 story, 2 stories. We just found 27 records in a half a mile. You average their price, it's 125, right? Days on market, 94. So pretty much my point is these are just snapshots of what the data has been, what the data that has been collected and what these providers have been able to spit out, but they're not true representations of what these properties can be because the data doesn't look at pictures. If we were running comps and we're looking at values and we see a $90,000 sold and it is burnt down or it looks like it's, mold is growing, we wouldn't have chosen that. This doesn't do that, right? So be careful with that. Again, it's good to know. It's almost like using your bank app to check your credit score. Like it sometimes could be on point, sometimes it could be off like by 10, 15 points, right? Same with these estimated value calculators, whether it's in our system or the next system. To the right of that, we're going to show you the mortgage and debt summary. The mortgage that we've collected, their estimated mortgage balance, any liens they have, and then the opportunity, the equity, monthly rent, gross yield, and then public record sell, previous public record sell, MLS sell, and previous MLS sell. And then all of that information is in finer detail down below. Owner's name, characteristics, land information, HOA, tax information, transaction history. If the property's on an MLS, you would see that as well. Was there a question? I just saw the chat blink by chance.
Yep. It says, do you run your comps off similar size?
Good question. So the comps here that you see, no. Again, they're unfiltered. Every property that you click on will have this area right here. For me, that's the last part of analyzing a property, right? Remember how I was telling you that we put the data together and it's really here for you to look at the opportunity. So opportunity is just looking at characteristics. Like it doesn't have to be in a pre-foreclosure for it to be an opportunity, right? Like the year built could be an opportunity, right? How many years they've owned the property could be an opportunity. Whether it's occupied or vacant, they're not answering the mail could be an opportunity. Having 1, maybe 3 mortgages could be an opportunity. So this is why we have it this way, so you can not only see potential opportunities, but if you are talking to Stephen on the phone, right? We're talking with confidence. Hey, Stephen, what's going on? I see that you sold the property through the Area West Realty. How was their service? Was it great? Yeah, great, and so forth. See, it lasted on the market, just shy of 6 months. Yeah, it looks like you sold it for once. So just talking with confidence really is why we did that. But we give you the tax information on the parcel, the mortgage and transaction history that's been recorded, and then documents and reports as well. So any documents you can purchase, like the assessor map and then any other documents we've been able to capture for you. Now, as I mentioned, the last part is really comparables and nearby listings. This is where you run your own comms, right? We're not going to do it for you, right? So what we're doing is we're just dumping the data on the table for you to utilize. So best practice is obviously to know the property characteristics, which we do right over here. So this blue house right here is the property that you've clicked on. So you're going to see the characteristics. But here's how this comparables and nearby listings section work. So the reason why we call it comparables and nearby listings is we're going to show you the comparables, right? And we have two comp boxes for you. Comparables is just everybody's known for. And then flip comps. This is something only found in PropStream. You remember that flippers list I was telling you guys about, where we were able to find a property that was bought and then is now on market within 24 months or less? This is the same concept, but instead of on market, this is who bought a property and then sold it within 24 months or less. And the reason I like this list is you get to see the purchase date, right? So this person bought it in 2019 for $110,000 and then sold it 6 months later on May 12 for $227,000 and made $117,000 profit. And that person is just west of this property. So you get to see their buying power. You get to see how fast they're flipping it and the ARV. And if it's on market, we have photos. Remember, we can see the condition of that rehab that was performed at the sale, right? Only found in PropStream. This is, again, us just having fun with the data. We really have fun with the data. Like every day we're all thinking, we always think about what we can do with this and that and that. And this is something that we came up with. You know, people are like, hey, I want to see if there's an investor in the neighborhood. Well, here are your investors, right? You can see, again, what they bought it for. Here's one that bought it for 75, flipped it for 89, right? And that's like a quick sell, like a wholesale perhaps. It was only 2 months, right? But then you have these guys. Bought it for 57 and then 6 months later flipped it for 277. Made that $220,000 profit. Again, we can see photos, and that's what, signature yellow door is what they do. Look at that. But you get to see all the appliances and how they kind of rehab their property. See, this is a buyer or investor I would like to partner up with, because they're going to get top dollar. So if we can get deeply discounted properties, they're going to do this and just work with us consecutively, right? But we also, again, give you the nearby listings. Neighbors, in case you're in a cul-de-sac gated community. Cash buyers, maybe you now need a cash buyer, right? So instead of looking at the flippers, you're looking for a buyer within a half mile or a mile radius. You can increase or decrease the radius. And then pre-foreclosures.
On that cash buyer, like what information would we get on that particular? Like,
if you go into the details, you'll see a cash sell tab. So as I mentioned, every property is ran through every transaction or file that we get. So what you'll get is this cash sell, the sell amount, sell date, seller and buyer's information, and the mailer's address. And then you can save that buyer's information and then get it skip trace and then market to it as well. So that's the information that you'll get. It's this buyer info. So buyer power, buyer date, type of transaction, and then that information right there. So yeah, so feel free to click on it, James. So I hope that answered your question there. But again, the two most important aspects of this area is really these two. For me, flip comps is great. As you can see the power, you get the photos, you get what they are willing to pay and how fast they're flipping it. We do give you some filters like the date range, right? I want to see flippers in the last 2 years, last 3 years. Bedrooms, apples to apples. If it's a 3-bedroom property, put the 3 bedrooms. It's 2 bathrooms, put the 2 bathroom. Year built, if you'd like. Square footage, you can adjust that. We do like a 20% deviation, 10% in some markets. Flip length, right? I'm looking for flippers that flip actually like after 4 months. I don't want wholesale flippers. I want the ones that are doing it between 4 months to 8 months, right? They're at least putting about 3 months into rehab. In this area, I don't see it, so maybe 12 months. And there we go, right? So now we can see, okay, here's a guy that bought it in 2019 for 57. Oh, it's that first guy we saw with the yellow door, right? And that's because I'm looking for that flip length. I'm not looking for someone who's just buying and then flipping it within a month. I'm not looking for someone who's going to sit on it for 18 months. I'm looking for someone who's going to buy and flip within this length. Property class, what type of flipping property? Is it a residential property you're looking that was flipped? Commercial, office, industrial, and then property type, right? In this case, single family. Distance, you can increase or decrease. So if you want to go and see all the flips in 2 miles, you can. So here's another one. So we can see 130 and they made 195 off of it, and we can see photos on that one. So red door signature there. You can see their rehab, right? And then last but not least, purchase method. Did the rehabber buy it in cash, or did they use a hard money loan, conventional loan, whatever it may be? Now, the most important one. Now, for this one, I will say we haven't generated a report yet. You'll see what I mean in just a second. But once you have your investors essentially filtered, you can now go to actions and export that data. And what we'll do is we'll put them on an Excel sheet for you, just the way that you saw it right there. So you'll be able to see the address that was flipped and so forth, okay? Comparables is just the raw data. So none of that flipping, it's just, here's the data, right? You have public records, which is county records, or MLS records, which are properties that sold through an agent, right? So it's your choice. If you're wondering what the difference is between the two, public records are officially recorded records at the county, but they record everything, right? You can see these colored dots. These are because it's either a cash transaction, or it was a construction sale, or it was a transfer between family members, right? So you got to be careful because the county records everything, on-market transactions, off-market transactions. So you can use county records, but I normally encourage people to choose finance records to see what the banks are financing, because banks don't just finance random properties. Banks finance these types of properties, right? Because if you have to repossess that property because someone's not paying your note, then you want to repossess a nice looking house. You can just put it right back on the market, right? So if you're going to use public records, use finance records, best practice, and then apply your filter. As for MLS, the reason why most people like this are because of photos. Most of them are going to have photos. And then B, frequency. In most markets, because of COVID-19, you're seeing a struggle. So right now, being able to see things that sold in November, like here's a property in Coleman Street that sold on November 13th. Let's see if the county even has it recorded yet. Yeah, they do have it recorded. So in some counties, they won't. I'll show you an address I'm about to pull up that doesn't. But the final part of running your comps is you choose the records, public, MLS, or both, apply your filters. And then the last thing I want you to do, guys, is deselect everything. Why? Because I want you to ask yourself, why? Why did this property off Center Street sell for $250? Look at the property characteristics. Look at the square footage. Then look at the photos. And if it's an after repaired property, right, because you're looking for an after repaired value, then you check that one off. Then you go to the next one. Why did that sell for 84? Click on it. Oh, that doesn't look like it's been after repaired at all. It looks like it was just bought randomly. It looks like an as-is MLS listing. So, and yeah, it was a cash transaction. Clearly not a comp I want to click on. So we'll go to the next one, Coleman. Check that one out. Yes, right? Look at the characteristics. 3.2. Okay, square footage is a little bit larger. Yeah, lot size is huge. It's almost nearly doubled, right? So probably not a good comp to use. So again, guys, ask yourself why. Go through the results, check the ones that are real representations of the property you're about to deal with. Right now, I'm just randomly clicking on them because the final step is after you've asked yourself why, looked at the photos, looked at the amount, you now can go to actions and hit view comps report. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the comps that you've selected and we're gonna generate a PDF report for you. It's a comps report and it looks just like this. It shows you the subject property that you clicked on, its owner's information and the characteristics, the listing history and county records, your search comp criteria, right? And then we're gonna show you a range. We're gonna say, here's the low, the high, and the average. So the more you choose, the better you're gonna get an average. We're not telling the investor, if you're wholesaling, right? Who controls what the property sells? Not you, it's the investor. It's how they rehab it, which dictates what they're gonna be able to sell it for. So you're going to be able to show them a range. You're going to be able to say, hey, look, you don't do enough on it. This is what you're going to get. You do the top quality stuff. This is what you're going to get. You do that mediocre stuff. This is what you're going to get, right? The reason why this is important is we're not anchoring our investors anymore. Because if you tell your investors, oh, you can only make $199 on this property, or the ARV is $199, what's going to happen is they're only going to think $180, $199, right? And then they're going to start calculating the risk. Well, what if we have to pay $5,000 more on the laborers? Now they're only going to make this much. But if you show them what the range is, now the investor is going to sit there and thinking, all right, we can make a 20,000 ROI, or we can make a 70,000 ROI because of that extra 50K, right? So this is why we do that. We also show you the subject property and where those comps are, the sources that you use to pull your comps and their characteristics, and finally, a photo of each of those comps, including the interior and exterior photos. So you can talk upon with confidence. So whether you're talking to the homeowner and the homeowner is like, I want full price, you can be like, yeah, your house looks nothing like this. This is why I'm giving you that 70% offer. Or you can send this over to your investor friends after you lock up the contract and let them see, what they can get out of it. So this is our comps report. We haven't done this again for the flip comps. We're working on it, but that's pretty much where property details comes to an end. Every property has this. What I want you to know is that no two properties are the same, right? The first property we clicked on in Vegas, they didn't have the MLS details. This property I clicked on in Atlanta was on market, sold. That's why we have it. This property I'm about to search in Miami, I found the other day. When I go into the details of this property here on the right-hand side, this property is going through everything. It's going through a pre-foreclosure, a lien, a bankruptcy, and it went through a failed listing, right? Why? Because we took that parcel and ran it through all of our sources to give you this entire story. Before even calling Mr. Hoven, I already knew what happened, right? He filed for bankruptcy in 2017, July. Then he called his agent, Rachel, on August, a month later. She listed it for 125, right? Something's boiling, obviously there's problems, so he's wanting to sell it, right? Meanwhile, it looks like he wasn't paying things because the lien holders started filing 2-3 months later, right? So first it was in bankruptcy July, listed in August, 3 months, November, lien holders are filing against him, right? Then what happens? Rachel's not able to sell it. It expires in 2018, right? So a year goes by, expires. We're back to square one, right? Now Mr. Hoven could try to sell it again if he has the time. Well, as he's waiting, Compass Bank puts a pre-foreclosure on his property. So now he's on radar of losing his home up to an auction, right? No auction yet. But you see, I know the story. I don't need to talk to Mr. Hoven to know what's unfolding, right? So before I even call him, let me just make sure I have my offer just right. I want to get the ARV using the data, so that way I can get whatever the ARV is and calculate my maximal allowable offer, right? Subtract my assignment fee, and then we can start talking to Mr. Hoven, right? So this is analyzing a property and looking for opportunities. But the reason why I started there is because that data that I just showed you guys is what really fuels our filtering, right? Remember I told you, we just took a parcel and just ran it through all the lists that we've collected. So what I'm about to show you in terms of lead generation is 2 ways of building a list. There's the traditional method of building a list, and then there's the using technology. But James, I think you had a question. I can hear you.
Yeah, real quick on that particular thing you just ran, is there a way to check mortgage data, like how much his mortgage is, current mortgage on file?
Well, it's not going to show you current, because every mortgage information that you get from any provider, James, it's just an algorithm. It's an amortization of the data. So we do show you the open mortgage and what we've calculated to be the mortgage balance. If you want to see more mortgage information, you can go into our mortgage and transaction history and see the information that we've captured. So it was an adjustable rate mortgage back in 2014. The loan amount that it started with was $825, right? But the problem is, no one really knows the mortgage information. There's only 2 people that know the mortgage information: owner, lender. No one else is going to know that information. It's private information, right? So what we have to do is we take that loan amount and then we call Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and we say, hey, what was your interest rate index at in December of 2014? And they give us an average. They say, okay, most of the loans that were adjustable rates in that month at that year was at a 4 or 5%, whatever that rate is, right? Now, even if that percent is off by 0.01%, your estimated balance is off automatically, right? So this is always why we always put estimate. It's in every platform. That's what most providers are doing. That's the vaccine thing. Another reason why it's also never going to be accurate is because of situations like this. See, these calculations are under the assumption that this person is making the payment every month, when in reality, Mr. Hoven hasn't been making any payments. And that's why he's in a pre-foreclosure. So our system is going to say estimated balance of 724, but I rest assure you, when I call Mr. Hoven, I'm sure that estimated balance is probably in the 740, 750 because of lack of payments, right? And vice versa. You might encounter a very responsible homeowner. Our system says, hey, their estimated mortgage balance is 724, and you call the homeowner and you say, hey, what do you owe? And the homeowner says, oh, we only owe 620. Like, what? You're off by 100K. And then you hear from the owner, oh yeah, we make extra payments every other quarter. No one knows that except for the owner and the lender. So these algorithms unfortunately can't capture that. So they're, again, snapshots of what we are able to calculate, but we never know what's happening on the external side. There are variables that we just can't control.
And then on that mortgage tab, it showed the document. Do you go in? Are you guys linked to the recorders?
Yeah, you can purchase it for $5. Yeah, that's, again, the document. So you can click on that, purchase it, get the mortgage information. So you can see the deed information. And then you can also do that with like some of our pre-foreclosure details. Like you can purchase the actual pre-foreclosure document, which is, again, where we source our information from. We just started there. Just go get that data. And that way you're able to see that notice of less pending. So if you want, yeah, these documents, if you see that PDF file, you can click on it. It's $5 to purchase it if you like. Yeah. So with that said, again, that's our property details. It fuels our filtering. So let's talk about lead generation. How do I build a list? So 4 types of ways to build a market or build a list is search a county, city, or zip code. So we can go to, let's say, Dallas County, Texas, and boom, there we are. So the difference now is that we're not giving you a specific property's details. We're giving you all the records in that county since you searched the county. We're saying, hey, in Dallas, Texas County, you have just shy of 740,000 records that you can go through. Now, you can go through them manually. So if you want to click on each one and see all the breakdown, go for it, right? However, I don't think a person has enough time to do that. So what we've done is categorize them for you. We've taken those records and broke them apart for you. So out of those records, 7,200 of them are on the MLS, meaning if I click on them, they'll have the MLS tab. Out of those 700,000 records, 209 are in pre-foreclosure. If I click on that, pre-foreclosure tab, right? Auctions, bank own, if I click on that, foreclosure tab, right? And any other tabs associated. So it's in foreclosure, but it's also failed on the market recently. And someone bought it in cash recently as well. Right, so the cash sell tab will have the cash sell, the liens will have a lien tab. Vacant, the only thing here is that you'll see vacant right here where it says occupancy. It means that they're not answering their mail. And then high equity, it's a calculation of 50% or more in equity or 100,000 or more. And that's all because it's in the data that we collect. But here's what I mean by building a list traditionally. Before technology, investors were doing this. They would go to Dallas County or a city like Chicago and walk up to the county clerk and say, hey, I'd like to get your pre-foreclosure lists. And the county clerk would give you 4,200 records. You would then take home and go through them manually, right? Technology, what it did, it just expedited that thing for you, right? So the traditional method is still here. Go to a market, choose a list, and then just refine it, essentially filter it faster, right? So if you're a door knocker, then you're gonna say owner occupied pre-foreclosures, and they're occupied, meaning that they're actually answering their mail. So if I knock on the door or send a postcard, they're going to be there, right? If you want the ones that are like the zombie properties, owner occupied but vacant, right? Or you can just choose zombie properties. See, this is why we have these shortcuts for you. But the traditional concept is here. You choose a list and then build upon that. Now, once you've selected your filters, then you can start stacking and suppressing. Stacking property characteristics. Like I need a commercial building in pre-foreclosure, or a vacant land in pre-foreclosure, or transportation building in pre-foreclosure if there is one, or industrial space, or an office space in pre-foreclosure if there is one. Now, most of us are going to choose residential, which is fine. And then we're going to give you property types: apartment, single family, condo, your choice. Bedrooms, bathrooms, square, all traditional filtering, right? Slight differences are home features, unit number ranges. So instead of looking for a multifamily 5+, you can say, you know what, I just want pre-foreclosures with 10 to 15 units, period. And there's that one property with 10 to 15 units. So you don't have to look for the property type. You can just apply the unit number range if you'd like. You also have the numbers of stories. So I don't want to deal with 2-story buildings. I just want properties with 1 story or fewer. School district and whether it's in an HOA or not. Finally, you have MLS status. This is where you can now start stacking or suppressing. Stacking would be like, I want a pre-foreclosure that's listed with an agent, right? Because now you're taking both categories and looking for the property in both categories. Suppressing is when you say, I don't want it. So I want a pre-foreclosure not on market. But this is where you got to start thinking outside of the box. I have a philosophy that I've been dealing with agents and onboarding like lender firms and these like huge billionaire companies, right? Every time they pull in PropStream and literally change their whole system to include PropStream, I have to educate them on how to like pull filtering. And one thing I notice is that they're so caught up with the traditional method that they always just go to on market no, right? And here's what I've been teaching. You have competition. You have a lot of people looking for pre-foreclosures that are off market. That's not a lie there. So how would you edge out competition if everybody's doing that? Think outside the box, right? Instead of looking for a pre-foreclosure that's on market, why don't you look for one that's on market, but it's been on market now for 6 months, days on market of 180 days or more. So you can wait for these properties to fail, or you can plant the seed now. Say, hey, I'm interested in buying your house, but that listing price is too high. Here's my number. Give me a call if you need another option, right? And then you kind of go for there. So think outside of the box, guys. You are building a list, but remember who's behind the list. It's a person with a problem. And so being in pre-foreclosure and then having it listed, but now it's 6 months and no one's bought it yet, that's a problem, right? So think of that, okay? I'm gonna keep saying building problems. It's gonna be a common trend I'm gonna keep saying, because you'll see my point a little bit later. But again, black and white, a lot of people would just say pre-foreclosure is not on market, but even then you can get creative, right? I want a pre-foreclosure not on market because it failed recently. Maybe it failed recently in the last 90 days. So these are 13 homeowners where if I call right now, they're not going to be able to say, oh, I'll just call an agent. No, you try that and actually just failed 60 days ago. I'm probably your only option now, right? Think outside the box, okay? But for most of us, 99.9% of investors would have just simply done this: pre-foreclosures on market, no. And then on to the next category, right? And the next category would be pre-foreclosures and bank-owned filters, foreclosure filters. So here I can specify what type of pre-foreclosure I want, default or one with an auction. Maybe I want a foreclosure as well. I can apply recording dates, auction dates, opening bid amount, default amount. But just like the MLS, this is an area where you can stack or suppress. I'll give you an example. What could happen before a pre-foreclosure? A lien could happen before a pre-foreclosure, right? But now I can stack it. I want a lien with a pre-foreclosure, right? So here are the 259 properties that have a pre-foreclosure and either a tax lien or an HOA lien on top of it as well. So not only is the bank after you, but you got this other entity after you as well, right? But earlier we talked about pre-foreclosures being very competitive, right? And this is Chicago, very competitive market. So if everybody's doing pre-foreclosures in Chicago, and I know that a lien is before a pre-foreclosure, then why don't I look for a lien that's not in pre-foreclosure yet, exclude pre-foreclosure? Here's why I'm doing that. I have this chart I use when I train every Tuesday. It's called the motivation chart. And a lot of people really don't understand this concept, so I had to build it. I really had to just show them what it meant in terms of motivation. This is my personal motivation chart. So when you're talking to a homeowner, that homeowner's in 3 stages of their home ownership. They're good means leave me alone. Uh-oh means I'll consider what you have to say. And then need help means let's go ahead and do it. Most of us are focusing on the need help. That's the pre-foreclosure and auction category. Why? Because you're going to get big discounts because they're heavily motivated and they're very distressed. Faster closing because you got to beat that auction date. But the reality is this is a very competitive category because every investor knows that stuff. So what I just did by looking for a lien, which is what I call the uh-oh area, because right now the owner can take care of that lien and go back to being good, or if they don't take care of that uh-oh situation, then they're going to go into the need help situation. So what I did is said, okay, if everybody in Chicago is in this category, then look for that lien or look for that divorce or look for that failed listing that's not in pre-foreclosure yet, right? The slight difference here is these are not motivated homeowners. So it's just going to take me more time to build that relationship. It might take 4 months. That's fine because 4 months later, I'm locking up contracts before they go into pre-foreclosure. And these guys are scratching their heads like, Burton, I never see you at the pre-foreclosure office getting records. How are you getting these leads, right? That's because I get liens before they go into pre-foreclosures. So just be more patient when you're dealing with the uh-oh, right? They could tell you to kick rocks on the first phone call. fair enough. Just be patient. The idea is you want to hopefully work with them before they go into pre-foreclosure. Maybe you'll lock it up. Now, even if they go into pre-foreclosure, because that's going to happen, right? You work with them for 4 months, they are stubborn and they don't listen to you and they go into pre-foreclosure. You warned them about it and now they're in pre-foreclosure. Guess what's going to happen? All these other investors are going to start bombarding them. And now that homeowner is going to have to make a choice. Either I go to these random people that just started calling me, or I go to Ryan, who's been working with me or trying to work with me for the last 4 months, right? So that's essentially building rapport, right? You hear that quite a bit. This is what it really means. So that's my motivation chart. And what I just did right now is just that. I want to lean not in pre-foreclosure. So these are the 4,900 properties, not in pre-foreclosure yet, but are potentially heading in that direction. Like this guy right here who owes his contractor $169,000. I'm sure that guy is probably not going to be able to pay for that. And if he did, he would have already. And if he's not going to be able to, then yeah, he's going to end up losing his property, right, to an auction. So in this area, stacking and suppressing is available. Now, this is huge. Why? Because we did a recent update. Ownership info allows you to do the basic stuff like apply years of ownership, right? It's important. No one's going to sell your house if they just bought it a year or less, unless you're doing a certain situation or they're in a certain predicament. So maybe you're looking for people with 4 years of ownership or more. Owner type, right? I want to talk to a person, not a corporation. Last sell date, last sell price. But the real reason why I'm emphasizing this area is because of a recent update that we did. Numbers of property owned. What we've done for you on the back end is we looked at the mailing address of where someone's sending their tax bill, right? So if I buy a secondary property, if I buy a rental property today, I'm not going to send my tax bill to that rental property. That means I have to drive to that property or have the person that's renting my property send it over to me, right? It's a hassle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy that rental property and send my tax bill to a PO box or my home address or my business address, right? So what we did, since we collect that tax information and we know that tax address, is we said, well, how many other properties are sending the bill this way as well? And how many of those properties have the same name? And lo and behold, we're able to now finally do this. Show me a person who has a lien on their property, that's an individual, and that person has 5 to 8 other properties on under their name. And now when I go into the details, we're going to give you this new tab called linked properties. So it says, hey, Jamal Waddell here, who has a lien of $13,000, owes his contractor, also has 7 properties under his name, right? So some of them are bought between him and his wife. He has an estate. But the thing is, all of these addresses are using this tax address right over here, right? Now, why is that important? Because if I do a damn good job with Mr. Jamil over here, he might just say, Burton, you know what? I have 6 other properties I'm going to need help with. I just took 1 lead and made it into a portfolio sale, right? So this numbers of property owned, don't sleep on it, please. For 2 reasons. You can turn 1 lead into multiple leads. You can also do something like this. I want a cash buyer, right? So let me find a cash buyer. Let me reset my filters. So I want a cash buyer who's flipping single family properties. There's a person I can talk to, potentially reach out to, but this person has 20 to 30 properties under their name in Chicago. So here's one off Exchange Avenue that was bought by Marisol in cash for $72,000 and 21 properties under her name or his name, right? So are you going to call the cash buyer that has onesies and twosies or the cash buyer that has 20 deep properties, right? This is why you don't want to sleep on that. Again, this is just PropStream doing that aggressive nature of filtering.
Really quick, back on the last screen, is it filtering by the name as well? Because
no, it's not going to filter by the name. It's going to filter just by the tax address. Gotcha. And then that's it, because sometimes they're going to buy under a different entity. They're going to buy under an LLC, a trust, or they're going to buy with their siblings. So we're just looking for all the properties that are using that tax address.
I see. So in the event that someone, has their LLC and all their taxes sent to like a registered agent or some corporate address, then it's going to show all of the LLCs.
Yeah. So like, here's an example. So he's buying obviously under his name, and then looks like he has an Inc. Corporation created too, where he's buying under that as well. But that building that he bought under his corporation is still using that tax address. So if you want to not be seen by PropStream, use multiple tax addresses, guys. But yeah, they're all using the same tax address. So that's how we're able to find them. That's why I don't want you guys to sleep on it, because you can, again, do some crazy creative stuff. Like I want cash buyers with multiple properties, or like something like this. I want a senior owner with 20 to 30 properties. Imagine that, a senior owner, someone who, if they don't have a plan B, they don't have heirs, they don't have children. Well, Mr. Senior Owner or Mrs. Senior Owner, who lives off Forest Glen, what are you going to do with these 28 other properties, right? So that's the concept. You can turn one lead into, so please don't fall asleep on that. The last filters that we have are tax exemption filters, where the location of the owner is. This is huge, right? Imagine we're in a pandemic right now where nobody wants to go outside of their home. So imagine a senior owner who's in a different state, who happens to be in a pre-foreclosure as well, right? Like, they're not going to be able to travel to that property, right? So just being in a different state right now is huge because of this pandemic that's unfolding, right? But again, all I'm doing is the traditional method. I'm still choosing a list, right? We'll go back to the lien list. So back to off market and no pre-foreclosures. Finally, the last three categories after ownership info is the lien, bankruptcy, divorce status. This is where we can stack these categories. So I want a lien that also has a bankruptcy or has a divorce. Or again, if it's a different category, I want a high equity property that has a lien and a bankruptcy, right? So you can stack if you'd like. So these areas, again, our filters are all designed to allow you to choose a list and then work downwards on the left-hand side to stack, specify lien type, as well as suppress, right? I don't want any bankruptcy in my records. I don't want any divorce in my records, and so forth. And then after that, you're also going to have recording dates, the lien amount, and tax delinquency year. Finally, valuation and equity info. This is going to allow you to specify the estimated value, rental income, gross yield, growth amount over time, estimated equity by dollar amount, estimated equity by percentage. Some of you guys are probably going to do some creative seller financing strategies, so you can search by loan to value ratio, like looking for low equity properties, maybe properties that have 90 or more on their loan to value ratio. So you can look for different types of strategies there. Tax information, like the total value of the property, or just the building value, or just the land value. And finally, the mortgage information. Not only am I looking for a person with a lien, but they also have to pay their mortgage company as well, right? And so we can specify the mortgage amount and other mortgage filters, like whether it was bought in cash, free and clear, or it's a seller carryback. Go ahead, Ryan.
On the last tab, the valuation and equity info, how does PropStream calculate gross yield?
Essentially, it's the 12 years of the after repair, or I'm sorry, the market value of the property and the rental income over the 12 months.
Okay. And how does PropStream pull rental?
Oh, it's the MLS. So in our MLS, we have rentals listings like this one right here. This is a rental listing. So right here it says rent category 13, but we know the characteristics. So it's just our data kind of just running comps on the back end to give you what we believe the monthly rent gross yield will be.
I see.
How often are you guys pulling data from the MLS? And is that a direct IDX feed, or is that pulled just from third-party websites?
So it's not a direct feed to IDX. It's from IDX, VETS, and RAW, and RETS. No, it's IDX, RETS, and VAL. So we try to pull from that. In terms of frequency, it's not a live feed, so we try to get it as fast as humanly possible. But every market's different. Like in Chicago, for example, if I just click on the MLS, we're about a week behind in that market. But if I go to, let's say, Las Vegas, MLS, we're 1 day behind. So they're a week and a day behind. Versus if I go to, Miami, let's see where they're at. So essentially the answer is frequency, and the frequency varies across each board. But yeah, in this case, it looks like most of the markets are about 7 days behind, about a week behind. And that's, again, not having a license in any of the 5 different states I just jumped in.
Also, can you sort by your opportunities? So can I pull up and say, hey, you know what? I want to look at things that I just have a gross yield percentage on this and on that.
Yeah. So what you're referring to is the new way of searching. So what I did was, again, the traditional method. What you're referring to, exactly what I'm referring to, is it looks like you're ahead of the curve, is building problems. So you don't even have to jump into any of our lists. You can just go into the valuation and say, I want a property that has a gross yield of like, 3%. And it's going to go through all of our records and show you the properties that we've calculated with that gross yield. So what you're referring to is exactly what I'm referring to. Is for the first time ever, we've decided to not force you to choose a list. This is the concept of building problems where, like, if you're a wholesaler or fix and flipper, golden rules is it needs to be off market with some level of equity, right? Let's say 20% in equity or more. The third rule of being a wholesaler or fix and flipper or anything that you're doing out there really is motivation. I think the problem is that we stuck to a list. We said, oh, a motivation means a vacant list or a lien list or a pre-foreclosure list. And that's not what motivation is. Yeah, it's a good starting point, but motivation is a predicament. It's a problem, right? To your point, it could be, a certain gross yield. To other people's point, like I've seen someone do this and I thought it was clever. Go to a market like Chicago, make sure it's off market with equity. The motivation was that it had 3 bedrooms, but 1 bathroom or less, right? So you guys are looking for liens and vacant properties. I had a gentleman in the market looking for people with 1 bathroom and had 3 people in the house, right? So his strategy was, hey, how would you like to upgrade? We can cash you out. We can go into, we can upgrade you and go to that next property. So this is like what I mean by building problems is, and the reason I say that is the frequency of data is starting to come to a slight delay, right? Auctions are being delayed. Pre-foreclosure records are being delayed. Properties that sold in August have yet to be recorded in some markets, right? So we can wait for these records to show up whenever they show up, or we can start thinking outside the box. If you're not seeing pre-foreclosures records populate, then completely understandable. Maybe we start shifting to properties built in 1960s that have to deal with an HOA, because if you don't upkeep your property, then you're most likely going to lose your home to an HOA lien. Other things that you can do, again, just throwing out ideas, things like, how about a vacant property and it has 2 mortgages on it? So it's not cash flowing, but who's paying for the 2 mortgage right now while it's vacant, right? So this is what I mean by building problems, is that once you understand that it's no longer a list that you're looking for, it's a predicament. This is why we kind of left our filters open for you. So you can treat it like a buffet of data, to go in there and say, I want this, I want that, essentially dissecting pieces of information from multiple sources, which you could never do in the past, to be able to create, a list just like this, right? To be able to say, okay, go through the records, make sure it's an off-market property, meaning you have your agent on the phone, making sure none of these properties are on market. And then you're calling your mortgage companies, your sources, or your collection agencies to get the ones with 3 mortgages. So while everybody's doing vacants and everybody's doing liens, you have guys like Burton, guys like these hidden investors, the ninja investors, looking for off-market properties with equity. The motivation is, how can I help you consolidate, or can I buy out your property and pay for those 3 mortgages? Or can I buy your property and get you from that 1 bathroom into a 2 bathroom property, and so forth. So that's essentially building a list.
And you could solve, I guess, the opposite of that problem. So using your senior lists with like a minimum of 3 or 4 bedrooms.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's just thinking outside the box. I want a senior owner who has, like you said, a minimum of 4 bedrooms, and it's a 2-story building, right? So, you have the senior owner going up and down and has multiple bedrooms, right? So that's a problem.
How do you determine who's a senior owner?
Again, we use ownership info. So we collect years of ownership, tax status, and then we collect mortgage data. So if obviously there's 1 mortgage out there used by senior owners. So it's just us on the back end using these 3 sources and piecing the puzzle for you guys.
That makes sense.
Okay. So that's building a problem. Again, at the end of the day, when it comes to lead generation, whether it's our platform or the next provider that's out there, look at the filters differently. Don't look at them as, okay, I want a senior owner with single family, 3 bedrooms or more, right? No, look at it as that problem, 2 stories and it has 5 bedrooms, or, I want a property with, 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom because School days must be horrible for them. You know, imagine the kids fighting for that one bathroom, and the guy has to go to work, or the wife has to go to work, right? And they have to wait for their kids. That's problems. And I see people lock up deals all the time. Same with like the numbers of property owned. You guys have heard it all the time. I'm sure you guys have heard that story of someone said, yeah, we found this property, we closed it, and then they had 4 other properties. Well, instead of, you know, finding that situation randomly, finding the senior owners with 4 properties or more. That way, yeah, I can put myself in that position automatically, and I could be the one saying that. Yeah, I found the senior owner, and we locked up this one property off Maryland Avenue, and then they told me about their other properties in Maryland as well that we closed up, right? So that's why I want you guys to think outside the box. But ultimately, once you have your results here on the right side, these are your unique properties that you've built, right? So we made sure they're off market. We made sure they had equity. And what's that third thing? Motivation. So it could be a list, or it could be just how you piece the filters together, and then your results will be here on the right side. From there, you can check off the results that you want individually. You can highlight them all, or you can hit filter and maybe do only numbers 1 through 100 or numbers 1 through 500. We don't know what your marketing budget is. Someone like me would probably do 1 to 500, and then add it to a list and create a new marketing list. So Chicago senior owners. And that right there is all phase 1, right? We spent quite a bit of time there, but that right there is just all of this. We searched, we filtered, right? Either traditionally or use this built the problem philosophy, save our lists, and now it's stored in our My Properties. And all I have to do is click on my senior owners list and then get it skip trace, right? Click on it. Oh, I'm sorry, Chicago senior owners, there we are. Check them off and then hit that export data. And now it's on a CSV file. Phase 2 is if it's now saved, I can now skip trace it. So I can select my contacts, choose my list, and then get it skip trace. So here's my Chicago owners, get it skip trace. And right now it's a killer deal, 12 cents is our price. So whether you choose phone numbers or emails, 12 cents, I would just recommend you just choose them both. Might as well just get them both. Hit next. For $46.44, I'm now going to be able to collect the landlines, cell phones, and the emails of these senior owners. I'll just place the order. Here's that pop-up we were talking about not doing the do not call for you. So make sure you guys do that on your own. Now, when you place the order, which I'm not because I don't market in this area, your results will be stored in the contacts page. And in the contacts page on the bottom left-hand side is where we have your skip trace results. So your Chicago pre-foreclosures or your Miami list, whatever it may be, that's going to be in there, right? With the phone numbers and emails. And at this point, you can check them off and hit that export button. And that's phase 2, right? You've searched the list, you saved it, you skip traced it, and then you exported that data. Phase 3 is marketing. That's this bad boy over here, right? Because you've searched it, you've saved it, you got their phone numbers. Well, now let's go ahead and start a campaign. So in our campaign area, you can start a whole new campaign. You can call it your Chicago senior owners. Choose your list, right? It could be a list that you've saved in your marketing list, or I implore you to use the skip tracing jobs, right? Because the original list is just the address. The skip tracing list that you see down here is with the cell phones and landlines and the emails. So if you want to use our Ringless voicemail and email and postcard, then I encourage you to use our skip tracing job list. If you choose your regular marketing list, since it only has the address, you'll only be able to send a postcard, right? So just know the difference between the two. But in this sense, you'll choose your list. So let me just grab a list here. I named it, I chose it, just need to hit save. Boom, you've created a new campaign, and we're gonna merge it with all your other active campaigns. So this is a senior owner campaign. And in the senior owner campaign has 50 people in it. It's created today. I can create a website for my senior owners, right? So the concept of this website is to call to an action for these particular 50 people. I'm gonna send these 50 people to this website. Like for example, my auctions campaign, this one has 75 people on it. And this website for them says, hey, I buy houses in cash, we close in 30 days. Because they're in an auction, we got to speed this thing up, right? Once I create that website for them, then I can send them an email or any of the 3 items. As for my
Hey,
other campaign,
Burton, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you guys
Sure.
also do direct IP marketing?
No, we did in the past, and it didn't work out too well.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, and the reason for that is the direct market IP addressing was they made you have, like, the companies out there, most of them made you have to do a minimum. Like, you had to do 500 addresses or more, and it wasn't in the budget for most people. So we just kind of like took it out. But you can export our data and take it to them if you like.
Cool.
All right. Now, for the next one here, the Riverside cash buyers, different category, right? First one was auctions. Second one is buyers, 17 people in this case. Website says to them, hey, cash buyers, how would you like to make 2K or 200K? Contract for 400K, rehab is 39, after repair value is 650. Fill out the information down below. All right. So that's how our campaign works. You create that website first for Chicago senior owners. And after you create that website, then you can send postcards or ringless voicemails or email marketing. Okay. So that's all of PropStream. Now, I'm going to leave you guys off with just 2 last things. One is our List Automator add-on. That's an enhancement to your My Properties. Again, it starts at a $27 add-on, but here's why List Automator has become very, very, very powerful. It's this button right here. You can import an outside list. Like, I imported a divorce list. Actually, this was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. So I imported a divorce list, and it's right over here. So we went from not knowing anything to knowing everything. Like, I have a driving for dollars list, so let me do that now. See, so I have this driving for dollars list I did a few days ago, and that's all I have. It's just the address, city, state, and zip code. So like 810 Carnaros, I don't know anything about that property. I just went driving, saw it, looked abandoned. I took it on an Excel sheet that we provide you, which is right here. Step 1, you just download our Excel sheet, put your addresses on that Excel sheet, and then upload that file. So driving for dollars. So we're going to call this mine D4D lists and hit save. And so it's going to take those addresses and match them up to our system. Essentially, it's doing the search for me. I don't have to go in our search bar and search 260 properties manually. Just import it with List Automator. It does the search for me. My driving for dollars list, my divorce list from my best friend, my failed listing that I got because I'm an agent, PropStream doesn't have it yet in my market, can now be imported, and your driving for dollars list now has our information. So that address, Carnaros, went from Excel sheet to, I know Robin owns it, I know their tax information, I see their other properties, if there's a mortgage on it, right? Not only that, but then we can help you clean up that data, because what List Automator does is it gives you these summary boxes at the top. So it says, hey, Burton, your imported list has 6 on-market properties. So I can check those off and delete it. So a minute ago, I had no idea what this driving for dollars list was about. A minute later, I've just taken off all the on-market properties and the just sold properties. I can also delete the low equity ones, the negative equity ones. I can delete the foreclosure ones. So that's a very, very powerful feature with the List Automator. That's just one of many things that you get. But the real bread and butter of List Automator is this blue button here, the Automate List. When we created a list earlier, that senior owner list, right here, 500 people, remember, we had a certain filter attached to it, right? And so you can view your filters here on the right side. And so this list says, hey, this marketing list was a Chicago, Illinois senior owner, 4 bedrooms, 2 stories or more. It's off market, numbers of property owned for, and it has 30% or more in equity, right? That's the filter I want. The reason why we created List Automator is because there was this thing called the churn and burn behavior we coined. It was like an inside thing that we call it. And what it was is that someone would build a list of 500 properties and then market to it for the next 6 months and then dump it and then go buy another list of the same filters, right? Just to repeat the same process. And that's what we call the churn and burn. You're just churning it and then burning it just to do it again. So that's why we created List Automator. List Automator hones into your marketing list's filter and allows you to do 2 important things. When new properties that match your exact criteria, so when we're doing an update in Chicago, and something matches this filter on your marketing list, then what we can do is either ignore it, which is what we're doing now, or just automatically add it to this list. So today it's 500. Next week when I log in, it could say 515 because 15 new properties were automatically added to my list. Or I can add it to another list. This is what a lot of people are doing, and I think this is clever. What they'll do is they'll add it to another list. So what I've seen people do is after they create their first list, they'll hit this plus sign and they'll call it the Chicago Senior Owner January list. And the reason why they do that is they create a blank list, right? A duplicate blank list, right? A January in this case. And then they'll automate the first list. They'll say, okay, all the new records, put it in this list, the January list, because I'm going to work on the senior list in December, but come January 1st, I'm going to let go of the senior list and then start working on my January list, right? So you can start dumping your new records into your next list if you like. Or my personal favorite is I'll do it myself. You'll get this green box at the top that says, this is how many properties that you have that meet that criteria, and you can ignore it, you can add it, you can delete it, you can do whatever you want. But that's not even the bread and butter, right? That's not even the kicker. The kicker is this. It's when the properties that you've saved change from your exact criteria. Like, right, you've asked for 500 properties to meet that selected filter. We could pay attention to that, right? If any of them go on market, if any of them no longer have that equity, if someone sells one of their properties and it goes down to 3 properties instead of 4, we can notify you on that. So same rules apply. We can just remove it from this list automatically. So today it's 500. Tomorrow when I log in, it could say 490 because 10 properties were deleted. Or we can move it into another list. Move it into my January list. Don't delete them, move it into my January list, because in January, we're gonna just do a follow-up and see if everything's still good with them. And if not, we'll just finally delete it. Or finally, I'll do it myself, right? If there are any properties that no longer meet whatever the criteria I asked for, just notify me and you'll get this red box and you can either delete it, ignore it, or move it into a different list. This is why we created it. And this took us 2.5 years to develop. But the reason why it's so powerful is because when you automate your seniors list, we're going to put it in our automated area, like my Vegas lien list. And that way, when you click on it, it does that. It says, hey, Burton, there's 189 properties in this list, right? And this list was created on December 8th. That's literally like 6 days ago. And it has these filters that I want. In 6 days, 43 properties that I've saved no longer meet that criteria. Oh, meanwhile, 20 properties in the last 6 days have been updated in Vegas that also meet that criteria. So what I can do here is I can add these 20 properties to my Burton's Vegas list, and then I can then delete the 43, right? That's why, because that's 43 properties I don't need to market to anymore because they don't meet these criteria. So that's just one list. I mean, when we look at it from a grand scheme of things, like I have 6,200 properties being monitored right now, and there are different tiered prices for List Automator. So you can do 2,000 if you want. That's the starting one. We have 50,000. We have 1.2 million records that can be monitored depending on how big of a firm you are. But that right there is the big part, because right now I have 6,200 properties being monitored. At this very moment, 701 of them do not meet a criteria that I asked to be monitored. Meaning that's 701 48-cent postcards I don't need to send, saving me $336 in unnecessary postcard marketing. So that's why List Automator has been the talk of the town. And then finally, guys, we do have our mobile app, which you can see on our resources page under video library. Ryan, I don't know if we still have time. Maybe I can show them a real quick demo of the mobile app.
Sure. Take as much time as you'd like.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll be like another just 10 more minutes, but let me go ahead and get my mobile app projected on the screen. But the List Automator is an add-on. The mobile app is not. The mobile app is part of your subscription. So if you haven't already, if you're using PropStream, make sure you go to the App Store and download it. But I'm going to project my screen and show you what the mobile app is. First thing to note, this is not a driving for dollars app. It does have some driving for dollars feature to it, but it's a real estate app. The concept is that we're letting you take our data on the go. So right now I'm going to pull up my screen. There it is. You guys see it right now, correct? I hope that is the case. All right, yeah. So there's our PropStream app. You'll log in and there's really just 5 tools to worry about, right? Search, that's the first thing you can do. In our search page, you can search by an address, an accessor's parcel number, which is like the VIN number of a house, or use the geolocate. Show me where I'm at right now, and I can zoom out and tap on a parcel and then see a little description of that property, but I can then go into the details and see the same details that were on PropStream, right? So again, address, APN, or geolocate. Geolocate has this magnifying glass, which I think is cool, right here on the right side. That lets you go into a different market. Like I can type in Chicago, and then when I go into Chicago, it takes the map to Chicago, and then I can zoom in. So if I'm like bragging about properties I own, I can say, oh, well, check out my property in Chicago, search Chicago, go into a market, and then tap on one of these parcels and get to that detail. All right. So these are just things that you can do if you'd like. So there you go. And then address, again, address search, but pulling up the same address that we were looking up in Miami, right? So you have the address at the very top, characteristics on the white bar. The tag icon lets you tag notes on the property. If you ever tag the property, like you made an offer or there are certain property tags like fire damage or a tombstone, you can add your own tags. Like I was just being silly. You can add your own tags, like the grass is red or purple for whatever reason, right? You can add notes. You can add notes at the very bottom. And the reason why you're doing this is because you might be talking to someone face to face, right? Leave some notes on the app and it will send it over to the desktop for you. And then that red button or this heart right over here, if it's not solid, means you haven't saved it yet. If you hit the heart button, then that means that it's been saved in your mobile folder over here. So in your My Properties, you'll see your mobile folder and you'll see the property has been saved. So 7701 Northeast Avenue, same one here, it's been saved. It's my mobile folder. And those notes are right over here. Broken windows, owner won't let me behind the house. He's a huge Miami Dolphins fan. So this is our mobile app. But remember, the data is on the go, right? Remember how we saw the pre-foreclosure details and the bankruptcy? That's all here. It's right down here. Property details, pre-foreclosure details, bankruptcy details. The documents are there too. So if you want to purchase the pre-foreclosure documents, you can, and even share it to a user that's under your umbrella or an external contact. So just the data on the go. Photos, just like on the desktop, are here. You just gotta either scroll left and right or just tap on the screen and see the photos there, right? You can run comps on the go, just like you can run comps on the desktop version over here. There's a comps button here, which allows you to run comps. The only thing we're gonna give you though are comps, neighbors, and cash buyers. We haven't squeezed in the flip comps yet. So right now you just get these three boxes: comps, neighbors, and cash buyers. But the comp set is you can get an after repair value on the go, right? So you can see your comps, you can see your neighbors, you can see the cash buyers in the area. And we even have, when it comes to comps, the ability to go from public records, MLS records, or both. And then finally, the filtering. So you can filter for comps while you're on the go. Now your results, whatever you filter, will be down here, right? And it looks just like a spreadsheet. What's cool about these comps is you can tap on them, go into the details, and see the photos of the comps. So you can talk with confidence, right? The owner's like, oh, I want full price. Be like, you know what, I'd love to give you full price, but you know, your kitchen's gonna have to look like this. Like there's a property that's sold right down the neighborhood. It looks just like this, right? Now we're just setting that reality in with the homeowner. So you can definitely take pictures of your comps. Opportunity is what no one talks about when we're on the road. Like when you're out there driving for dollars, right before you take a picture of that property, does it have equity? That's what our opportunity, it's going to show you the equity, the mortgage that's on it, any liens that are on there, right? So before you send that postcard, before you skip trace it, before you knock on that door, is it even worth your time? If it is, then let's go ahead and skip trace that property. Let's go ahead and send that property a postcard, right? So you can click on our postcard, like number 12 and 13 are my favorites. Those you can take a picture of the property. So you can tap picture and take a photo, choose from your library, and then send that postcard to the mailing address, or choose any of our other ones. It doesn't have to be the one where you take a picture of, right?
So via the mobile app, you can just order one skip trace and one postcard at a time?
Yeah. Yeah, or you can save it to your mobile. Like instead of just doing one at a time, you can just save them all and then check off all 21 of them that have been saved, and then just create a whole new marketing list, and then just do it all together. So yeah, you can do it from the mobile app, or you can do it collectively on the desktop. It's up to you. And then finally, we have the documents, which again, allow you to purchase documents. You can get directions. How do I get from California to that property? You can share it to a team member and external contacts. So that's just the data on the go. Favorites at the bottom are just the properties that you've saved. The drive feature, this is revolutionary. We've kind of evolved the driving for dollars aspect. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So with our drive feature, there's two ways to drive for dollars. One is just drive. And that's the traditional method, where if you click on that, we're going to show you where you're at on the map, and then just essentially record your route. So as you're driving and tapping on properties and saving them, right? So the idea was it's going to be recording me. I'm going to go into a neighborhood I've never been, tap on it. I could go into the details, or if I don't want to look like a creep, I'm just going to tap on it and hit that heart button right there, and then keep going, right? So as I keep doing this, it's going to take these properties I saved, it's going to record it, and it's going to record my route that I can view later on. So at the very bottom, once I'm done, I can hit end and save that drive. I can name it, save it, do as I will with it. Now, that aspect, when we do that, we're going to store your drive in the more section under the mobile activity drive log. So you'll be able to see all the routes that you've taken. That way you're not taking the same routes. But here's the thing with driving for dollars. You're going to run out of vacant properties to look at. Like, we understand that eventually you know all the abandoned properties, or you're in like my market, Orange County, where there's just never going to be an abandoned property at all, right? So someone like me can't drive for dollars in my neighborhood. So what we decided to do is set filters in Drive. So what set filters in Drive allows you to do is actually drive for a different purpose, not just for abandoned properties. This time you can search a radius around your area and apply the same filters that are on our desktop, right? I want a non-owner occupied property with a lien. It's off market, or it failed. It has certain characteristics, certain ownership info, right? So this is a filter I use in my neighborhood, but that's it. Instead of driving for just abandoned properties, I can now drive to a property with a lien, a property with 2 mortgages, a property that failed on the market recently, knock on the door and have a conversation with the owner. So this is what made our system just like, made people like, what the heck? You can like literally play Pokemon with your, real estate, right? You just build the list that you want. In this sense, I want liens that are not on market within a 5-mile radius. And look at number 1, just southwest of where I'm at. Number 1 looks like that. Like, if you didn't have data, you would have never known that this property was a motivated seller, because on the outside, it looks perfect, right? Grass is kept, paint looks amazing, roof looks amazing. Why is this on my list? Because there's a lien on it right over here. There's a $3,100 lien on that property. This owner could have taken care of it a long time ago. It's been 3 years now. And if they don't take care of that, that's going to probably turn into a pre-foreclosure. So this is why we have revolutionized the industries, because now once you're, again, done with driving for abandoned properties, right? Because I hear people tell me all the time, I know all the abandoned properties in my neighborhood. Cool. Well, do you know all the properties with 2 or 3 mortgages in your neighborhood? Do you know all the properties that failed in the last 60 days in your neighborhood? If not, you should start knocking on their doors too. And that is our mobile app for you guys. So this is, again, an add-on to your subscription. And Ryan, that's all I got for you, brother. I really appreciate your time, man.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Dylan, John, Will, you all have any questions before Burton leaves?
I do not have any questions. Thank you for your time. That was awesome.
Yeah, most definitely. I hope you guys learn. I mean, if anything, guys, really, build problems, because right now we're seeing it ourselves. We're struggling to get these data. We're like hounding these counties. We're like, yo, properties are not selling. What's going on? And what's happening is, instead of sending us batches, they're like sending us ones off, because we're getting pissed off. We're like, hey, what's happening? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll give you the update on that. It's not that we need the update on that property. We need the update on the entire county. And these counties are struggling because of COVID. So while these pre-foreclosure records and lien records are starting to slow down, trust me, you're going to start seeing other investors get frustrated. So if you start building problems like 3 bedrooms, 1 bathrooms, out-of-state owners that are vacant with a mortgage, that's what's going to give you guys the leverage against these guys that are just still kind of stuck with that traditional method of searching. So good luck to you guys. I hope everything works out well. And if you guys need any help, you have our customer support to help you out.
Yeah, thanks, Burton. It was very useful.
I appreciate it.
Most definitely will. Thank you for giving me your time.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it.
Most definitely, guys. Well, you guys have a great evening. If there's, or rest of the day, if there's anything you guys need, find me on Facebook, Brian. I'd love to do this again with you if we need to do a deeper dive on a certain topic. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Most
Thank you,
definitely,
sir.
my friend. Take care, guys.
Yep. See ya.